My name is Luke Erickson. I am a Marine veteran and a medically retired police officer with PTSD. I have 11 years total of law enforcement experience, and in law enforcement you see a lot of things you can't unsee. And I considered myself to be resilient. I thought that I could walk away from the incidents and they wouldn't bother me. And for a while I kept that up, and you'd think about it occasionally, but it wasn't a huge deal. Like I kept going, I was still able to do the job, I wasn't having trouble. Then in November of 2021, November 16th, I was 15 minutes away from getting done with my shift for the day. And a medical call came out with an unresponsive infant. And I was the closest unit by a decent amount of time and made the decision to go, and the infant didn't survive. And it broke me. All the resiliency that I thought I had, I learned later that trauma is cumulative. And that was kind of the final thing that just broke open the cracks. The next day I called off work. I went to go get ready and just sat on the floor in my bathroom for 20 minutes and finally called my supervisor and said, hey, I can't come in. And then I just cried for a long time and went upstairs and tried to keep going back to work. Law enforcement was my dream job. There's nothing I loved more than being a police officer. I liked my department, I liked my community. But I started having trouble doing the job. I had panic attacks in the morning just trying to go to work. I had nightmares. I was irritable, and I knew I wasn't myself. Something was off. And so in February, I was looking for help. I had missed most of December and January. I was trying to go back to work just to keep afloat financially. I was going to push myself through the month of February. And looking for resources, I found Invisible Wounds, and I sent Russ an email, and less than an hour later he got back to me. And they set me up with therapy. And then I finished the month of February working every day on every shift I was supposed to. And then in March, I couldn't take it anymore. And I just stopped getting out of bed. Wouldn't even go into work, wouldn't call. And that's when I got diagnosed with PTSD. And I spent the next 7 months doing an hour and a half of therapy, EMDR sessions every week, and I wouldn't have been able to pay for it because I was broke and I had burned through all my vacation. I didn't have any more leave to use. So I did 7 months of unpaid medical leave with therapy, just focusing on staying alive. I gave my wife the keys to my gun safe. I haven't carried a firearm since. And I got to the point where I realized I wouldn't be able to go back to work as a police officer ever. And Russ stepped up again and helped me out and referred me to an attorney that could help me start the medical retirement process. And I medically retired in August of last year. Still doing therapy. I had to move, change jobs, change careers. I don't like, sharing my story necessarily, but there's such a stigma against PTSD. On the 7 months that I was on medical leave, none of my partners reached out to me. Nobody in my department talked to me. They talked about the blue family and the thin blue line, and I didn't have a blue family when I got PTSD because of the stigma. I was all by myself trying to live and survive, and because of invisible wounds, I am not alone. Every day is still a struggle for me. I'm not out of the woods by any means, but I'm still here, and I wouldn't be here without Russ and invisible wounds. I wouldn't. If I hadn't done those 7 months of therapy, I wouldn't have made it. And just that alone has been enough to kind of push me through the worst of it. And now, I can get out of bed in the mornings and I can do the things that I'm supposed to do as an adult. I'm still irritable. I still am not the same person that I once was. But just from that email to Invisible Wounds, I got in touch with them. I got in touch with an attorney. I got in touch with another organization that does fishing for veterans and first responders. I got in touch with an organization that provided me with a service dog. And none of that would have been possible if Russ and Invisible Wounds didn't exist. I know that they're just a phone call away. And just having that reassurance, even if I don't call them, it's not just me trying to do things on my own. I know that I've got people that have my back and they actually care, and they'll be there if I need them. People without PTSD just don't realize how hard it is to do anything. And the fact that these guys do so much and provide so much and are there when we need them is just huge. Huge.